Okay. So I'm going to try to do this in one take. But I just kind of wanted to record some of my thoughts on some issues that I've been facing recently in World of Warcraft, predominantly classic World of Warcraft. And I'm just kind of curious, like, I just want to document these thoughts. Number one, for two reasons, because I think that it can be beneficial to put your thoughts down on paper. In this case, not physically writing it on paper, but putting it in a video format. And number two, because I do have a couple people that are close to me that I would like to talk about this with. And I think maybe it'll be easy to just show them this video. And then they can kind of offer thoughts and opinions based on that. So I've been playing Classic WoW. And this is my second time playing. Originally, back when the game came out, I didn't start playing for real and like reach endgame until ICC in Wrath of the Lich King. So this is my second go around at like vanilla, properly playing like vanilla World of Warcraft. First time was in 2019 with Classic. And last time, I leveled a rogue on Horde side, joined a guild, we raided Molten Core, killed Onyxia, and that was pretty much it. Basically, after I killed Ragnaros and Onyxia one time, I kind of felt like, well, I've done it, I've experienced Classic, so I'm just going to move on, right? I regret that for a lot of reasons. Because I felt like I missed out on a lot of content and gameplay and social interaction that I never got to experience because I was young, when people were playing and raiding in vanilla in TBC. I was young, I didn't have a job, my parents wouldn't pay for a sub, so I never experienced that the first time around. And I do have like a great desire to do those things and participate in those things. So I definitely feel like I missed out. Tried to come back when TBC rolled around, but felt like I was behind and I didn't fit into the social aspect of the guild because, again, those people had all been playing together for 2 years and I hadn't been, right? So just a big feeling of missing out. This time around, I told myself it was going to be different, right? I had things that I wanted to do. I wanted to raid seriously. I wanted to get into classic PvP, right? BGs. And then eventually when TBC comes out, arenas. And so I decided to do that. I just made the decision to do that. Now keep in mind, I am raiding in retail once a week. That guild is very casual, the true sense of the word, very casual. But that guild's like a family to me. I've been playing with those guys and gals for 4 years now, something like that. I'm not gonna not play retail World of Warcraft with those folks, right? So I knew that if I was gonna play Classic, I'm gonna have to add 1, potentially 2 raid nights a week to my current gaming schedule. I know this could put some pressure on my marriage, for example. And so those are, considerations that I've had to deliberate on, kind of talk to my wife about. So I don't know if this is true for anybody else, but like when my wife hears that I'm raiding on Wednesdays, what she hears is that, oh, we could never do anything together on Wednesday ever again. And I don't really want to get into specifics about my relationship and my marriage, but, that can be problematic. And you definitely have to figure out how to navigate that and have that conversation and work that out as a couple, right? It's been going fine. The additional game time spent in Classic WoW has been going fine for the most part. Obviously, it was a little it was a little rough initially. You know, spending a lot of extra time on the game leveling and things like that. But it's been going good. My struggles and my issues this time around with Classic WoW actually don't have anything to do with my marriage and my personal life. It has everything to do with the people I play the game with and the guilds that I've been a part of. So when I made the decision to play Classic WoW this time around, Classic Fresh, right? Anniversary Realms, whatever people are calling them, I reached out to some folks that I play, you know, World of Warcraft with, retail with, and other games, and I just said, hey, like, I'm trying to get an idea of who's interested in doing this. Is anyone interested in seriously playing Classic? What do we think about it? Where would we want to play? Would we want to play on a PvP server, a PvE server? Would we want to be Horde? Would we want to be Alliance? You know, not really trying to like lock anybody into anything specifically, but there is a lot of time investment that comes with Classic World of Warcraft, specifically in the leveling process. And so what essentially I was trying to do was get ahead of any potential issues coming up later on down the road where, oh, what server are you on? Oh, I'm on the other server, or I'm actually Alliance, you're Horde. This is unfortunate. I was trying to get ahead of all those issues. And I got like 2 responses to that poll that I posted. And so we made the decision to roll Horde on Night Slayer, the PvP server, just based on those responses. And then other people started coming out of the woodwork. People wanted to know where we were playing at. You know, we told them Horde Night Slayer, and a lot of people were like, okay, cool, you know, and jumped into that right away. And then over time, people started falling off, as they do. And right about the time, I have a Shaman Horde side on Night Slayer. Right about the time I hit level 60 on my Shaman, I farm out my pre-raid bis. You know, I'm figuring out how to make gold so I can afford consumables for raid, and I've, you know, cleared Molten Core a couple times, killed Onyxia a couple times. Right about this time, people start saying, oh, I mean, this is also about the time that the PvP ranking system dropped, so I guess that's important to note as well. But right about the time the PvP ranking system dropped, people started to say, oh, we don't like world PvP. We don't want to be on a PvP server. We're going to go reroll on the PvE server. To which I'm kind of like frustrated, because I took the initiative as a leader, an informal leader, to step up and ask people what they think before anybody started anything. And nobody wanted to provide input. So we made a decision. And it's fine that people want to play on the PvE server. It's fine that they don't like world PvP. But it's frustrating when people that you want to play the game with, you want to enjoy the game with, wait until you've invested, you know, 6 days played time, 7 days, 8 days time played in a character to say, I'm not feeling it. We're gonna go over here now. You know, and the impact for them may be less, right? They may not have even hit level 60 yet. Meanwhile, you are level 60, pre-raid bis, you're in a raiding guild, you have a raid spot. But these people that you know, that you've known for a while, that you want to play the game with, are now just up and moving to a different location. Very frustrating. So there's that. I have had an interesting experience this time around with classic guilds. The first guild that we joined, me and a couple friends joined on Horde side, Night Slayer. Initially, I was really impressed by. And I told myself rolling into this time around that like I was going to wait to have an organic interaction with a real guild of people and get an organic invite to a guild. I wasn't just going to join a trade chat guild. I wasn't just going to like join a guild the first time someone invited me. I wanted to have an organic gameplay experience with people that were in a guild, and then hopefully receive an invite to that guild. And then I could continue to learn who they are and, you know, level up with them, and then maybe, you know, raid with them, right? That's what I was looking for. And I found that. I'm in a Wailing Caverns run with a couple guys from a guild that will go unnamed. And it was really great. The vibes were good. It was fun. They were efficient. And then they were like, hey, you were a decent healer. Like, if you want to join the guild, you should. You're more than welcome to. And I asked some questions about the guild and everything like that. Coincidentally, one of the guys in the group was one of the officers. And he had a lot of really positive things to say. Really, really great guy. At least that's my perception. And it still is to this day, I should say that. You know, so I get invited to the guild Discord, and I'm looking, and the guild has a charter, and you know, everything in the guild's been around for a long time, and they have multiple raid teams across multiple different versions of World of Warcraft. And I'm like, okay, this seems legit. Like, these guys are serious about playing the game. They're serious about building a community. Like, this is what I'm looking for. And most of my interactions were very positive, and I had a good time. But then I started to notice, the more time I spent in Discord, the more time I spent with the guild, I started to notice the outliers, the bad apples, that would represent some really like elitist and toxic like attributes and tendencies. People that would tap dance on like really racist or sexist things. And full disclosure, I am not like a social justice warrior. I am not gonna like get offended on behalf of somebody else necessarily. But I just think there's some things that like we as adults in modern Western society, like we just don't need to say. And I started noticing that from some people. I'm talking like onesies and twosies out of a full guild of people. Okay, so I'm not saying this guild is racist or something like that by any means. But it was just something that kind of made my ears perk up a little bit and go, huh, is this normal here? And when I started paying more attention to it, I noticed that one of the people was a co-GM. And that's kind of what put the nail in the coffin for me and told me that I'm probably not going to like it here long term. If one of the co-GMs of this guild and this community is one of these people that I'm not really sure about. I'm sure they're fine for the most part, but maybe they've said some things in Discord that kind of make me feel like, I don't know if these are the values that I really, want to represent. Because that's another thing I think that's important, especially in Classic WoW. Like, people see your guild name, they associate your actions and the things that you say with that guild, right? So anyway, I kind of had this realization where, hey, maybe this isn't the place for me. Right about that time, I started talking to another guy in the guild who felt the same way. This is a great guy. I've really hit it off with him, enjoyed playing with him. And he said, hey, I have been talking to this other guild. I did an Ubers with them a few days ago. It went really well. Their main tank is a bear, which is really funny. And he raid led one of our MCs last week or something like that. And it went super well. The vibes were good and everything like that. And I said, okay, that sounds interesting. And he jumped ship right away. He was like, I'm good. I'm going over to this new guild. And I was a little more hesitant. Number one, because I have that fear of missing out from last time. So I was hesitant to just like jump ship. Also, I had received some loot, right? I had received tier 2 helm, tier 2 legs on my shaman. And so I felt a social obligation to stay with that previous raiding guild. And I know Preach Gaming viewers that like hear that are rolling over and everything. I know if I said that to Preach, he'd probably roll his eyes at me. But that's how I felt. So for the next several days to like a week, when this other guy was online, I added him to friends list. I would message him. I would ask him about how it's going in the new guild. What's happening? What are your thoughts? And he would share. And I was just collecting intel. And it felt like every time I talked to him, it was just supporting my decision to switch over to this new guild with him. But what I decided to do is I decided to message the main tank of the guild in question. And I reached out to him and I just told him who I was. And what I was about and what I was looking for and some of the issues that I've had in the current guild that I'm in and my fear of missing out and everything. And we just talked back and forth in whispers for probably a good 30 minutes or so. And I really appreciated that time investment from him. He was excited that I was a resto shaman. This is going to come back to play in a little bit. And he was more than willing to bring me over and one of my friends over. And I just felt like it was going to be a good fit. Very excited to be in the new place. Overall, the people seemed really good. My main gripe with the new guild is that nobody hung out in Discord. And it seems like this guild was kind of... They had cliques that were from previous guilds and previous... iterations of Warcraft and friendships and things like that all kind of came together to form this guild. And so they all had their own social spaces that they would hang out in. But I'm over here like, I want to get to know these people. I want to play the game with these people for the next few years, possibly more, right? And I made several comments to the leadership of the guild about how nobody hangs out in Discord. And they said, well, yeah, that's because a lot of people hang out in our old Discord and other places. And I said, don't you think, you should have a conversation about that, to encourage people to hang out in the actual guild Discord so that relationships can be formed, and the guild doesn't feel cliquish. And I mean, it seemed like they were receptive to it, but at the end of the day, it hasn't happened. And for reference, I spent about, 6-7 hours online yesterday gaming, doing AVs, in the Discord, in the guild Discord, sitting there by myself with like 20 plus people online. And obviously I'm not suggesting that anyone has to jump into Discord and talk to you and be your friend, but in a social game like this, you would think that there would be a little bit more interest in getting to know people that you're playing with. So again, just something I noticed, I've observed. The other thing that's irked me about this guild is the way they handled loot. They do a loot council, which I am 100% in support of. I want to put that out front. I am 100% in support of the loot council. However, I don't like loot council without transparency. If you can't tell me, we gave this loot to this person because, then there are just going to be questions. Why did this happen? People are going to feel put out. I mean, people are going to feel put out regardless when it comes to loot. But at least, in my opinion, if you provide the transparency of why you are making the decisions you're making, people will understand. And they can either accept it or not accept it. But what was happening with loot in this guild is the officers would go into a separate channel and they would have a conversation with themselves, which I understand is normal, right? And then loot would just get handed out with no explanation at all. And if you got something, you were excited, and if you didn't, you were kind of like, huh. And one thing I noticed as a shaman, I was one of 2 healers that were coming to raid prepared with consumables, world buffs, a flask even. Only 2 healers out of the whole raid. And I was one of the 2 that was showing up prepared. And I was checking logs. I was like, how many times did this person pop a dark rune? How many times did this person use a mana potion? And other shamans that were not doing these things, that did not spend the time to farm pre-raid bis, even even try, make the effort, were getting rewarded with loot. And I believe it's coming from a genuine place of kindness and wanting to spread loot out and make people feel happy and excited that they get a piece of loot. And I understand that. But I don't think you should ever punish your top preparers. Notice I said preparers, not performers, because I'm specifically talking about preparation. To me, preparation shows that you are invested. Preparation shows that you want the team to be successful. We can improve performance for most people. But if you don't even bother to prepare, then you clearly aren't invested in the first place. You just want your free handout. And so I noticed this was happening. And I became very frustrated. And I said something to the raid leader about it, and he gave me the old, don't worry, you're up for a big piece, right? And I'm like, okay, that's not really why I want to have this conversation. And then the next week, Wild Growth Spalders drops. And lo and behold, I get the Wild Growth Spalders. And that's awesome. And I appreciate that. Now again, I'm in a situation where I'm in a guild that I'm starting to have questions about for longevity purposes. And now I feel obligated to stick around because I have received a big piece of gear. And this is very frustrating for me at this point. So I've been looking at this other guild that I'm in now on a second account, Alliance Night Slayer. When I first talked to the GM, we hopped in a Discord call for 3 hours. 3 hours with a stranger, chopping it up, having a conversation about life, about WoW, about whatever came up in conversation. He wanted to know who I was as a person, about my marriage, about my finances. You know, we talked about finances. With a total stranger, I had a candid conversation about my finances, and he gave me advice and suggestions that I then took under consideration. What I'm getting at is this total stranger showed me that he was invested enough in the potential of us having a friendship or a relationship in World of Warcraft, outside of World of Warcraft, that he invested 3 hours of his personal time. And it would have gone on longer. I had to go because my wife was calling me. And I am pretty floored by that. People hang out in Discord. People chop it up. They seem to want to play the game together. The only thing that I'm a little concerned about, I don't even know if that's the right word, is this is a speedrun guild. And that's something I've never done before. And to be quite honest, I like the meme specs. I like Shadow Priest. I like Warlock. I would love to play one of those things. I understand that there are meme specs in Classic WoW and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm bought in. Like, I know you don't have to explain it to me. I'm good. But the idea of stacking 20, 25, 30 warriors is a little off-putting to me. But if the vibes are there, I mean, if the guild is good from the standpoint that everyone's firing on all cylinders and clicking and excited to play with each other and talking, and we're developing these relationships, I'm starting to question whether I really care about what the raid comp is. I think in the process of recording this video, I realized that my mind is kind of made up already. And yeah, and that was kind of my whole reason for sitting down and recording this, is to put my thoughts out there, give me something to go back and review, maybe share with one of my friends. But yeah, I think I'm there. So I don't know if you ever see this. Thanks, Jake. It means a lot that you have invested so much of your personal time into a total stranger.